Alright, so the person above put a really great thought into our heads. What about a Saiyan? And this is in reference to a previous video that I did on Xenomorphs taking on traits of pretty much anyone they impregnate. So the question is, or the thought is, what about a Saiyan? Now, the Saiyans are fictional characters that come from the Dragon Ball universe. So let's take the anime into perspective and really deep dive into a fictional story. Let's say that the Saiyans have the original story that they normally have. They're on the planet Vegeta. And we know Saiyans are just really great fighters and they live to basically fight and get stronger. Now, Frieza notices this and he basically enlists many Saiyans, but he also enlists them because he fears that they will become more powerful. Now, these pictures are from the anime, but we're going to use that for the sake of our storytelling today. So Frieza sends these Saiyans to a planet, and he unknowingly sends them to a planet that has a horde of Xenomorph and also face huggers, right? Ready to just basically impregnate their host. Now, the reason why Frieza sends Saiyans and just others is because, number one, he wants to take over the whole entire universe. He wants to be the king of the universe, and he sends the Saiyans to do basically the dirty work in taking out the inhabitants of the planet. But unfortunately, he picked the wrong planet. Now, under normal circumstances, a Xenomorph cannot beat a Saiyan, but we're not talking about a Xenomorph, we're talking about a horde of them. And these two Saiyans that happen to go on this planet are about to face their biggest challenge of their life. Now, when they get to this little cave in the planet to see if there's any inhabitants, they are overrun with a ton of Xenomorph. And here's the thing, they're doing their best. They're fighting them off and they're doing pretty good. But it's almost as if they're fighting a whole entire beehive. Eventually, they're going to get stung. And one, if not two, of the facehuggers gets on them. Well, this picture looks nasty, but the facehuggers get on them and they have no choice but to be impregnated. And they fall at the hands of the Xenomorph. Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, a Xenomorph can't be a Saiyan. Now, again, I was talking about a whole horde of Xenomorph, and we're not talking about Xenomorph versus Goku or Vegeta or Trunks or any one of those really powered up Saiyans who went through trials and tribulations in order to get stronger to then become Super Saiyan and gain these fantastical abilities. We're talking about, well, just Saiyans who are pretty strong. Of course, superhuman strength, superhuman speed, has ki control to some degree, but they get overrun by the Xenomorph, and then eventually a facehugger gets them. A chest burster pops out, and then we get something that is akin to this, right? This is just a picture of a Xenomorph, but again, we're using our imagination, and we get a really strong version of a Xenomorph that has the traits of a Saiyan. Now, here's the real exciting part. What can a Xenomorph with the traits of a Saiyan do, basically? Well, let's talk about a couple of things. Now, of course, they're going to have abnormal strength, which is basically superhuman, right? And I hate to say superhuman, but let's just say like they're really strong, right? Durability is going to be off the chain. Number one, a Xenomorph already has great durability, but with a Saiyan durability, that's going to be just a crazy mixture. Now, at this point, I think we're going to get a Saiyan that is pretty much war-bound. Now, when I say war-bound, I mean just looking for any and every single battle. Still is going to adhere to the Queen, but going to adhere to the Queen to do some of the most dangerous missions we have ever seen. And that is going to be to expand the Hive. Now, I'm not going to include Super Saiyan and all of that stuff, but we have some significant power-ups that this Xenomorph would have. Now, remember that under normal circumstances, by birth, a Saiyan normally has a tail. Now imagine a Xenomorph that does have a tail and happens to look at the moon at night. Now we know that Xenomorph are pretty stealthy, and this is a ripe occasion where we would see a Xenomorph under the moonlight. And what is that going to produce? Now, shout out to the creators for creating this picture for a different occasion, but we're using it for our imagination in the moment. So imagine a Xenomorph that does transform by the moonlight, and we get something that's akin to something like this, but on a Grand Titan base level, right? It is like a kaiju, but like just crazy. Now, again, this was just a fan fictional story and elements combined together using resources from the internet by me based on this amazing thought about what if a xenomorph had the traits of a Saiyan and what could happen. But we're not done though. Here's another way that a Saiyan can basically be impregnated by a face hugger. Now we know that Saiyans, as babies, they were being sent to other planets. Now what happens if, well, one of those babies got sent to pretty much a planet that was inhabited by those xenomorph? Then what would happen is that this is pretty scary, but we would get a toddler who eventually like comes out and who's doing his thing for a while, but then comes across these xenomorph and also face huggers. Now, even if that toddler Saiyan had armor, doesn't have armor on the face, and eventually that Saiyan is going to fight the face huggers off and also the horde that's around him or her, but eventually they're going to get caught up, and eventually, because they're a small Saiyan, right, they're going to be a lot weaker than a normal adult-sized Saiyan, and eventually they're going to get caught up, and then we still get that same set of traits that I talked about, possibly, right? Now, this is really fun to think about and also to come up with this fan theory slash fictional story. So let me know in the comment section what you thought about this video, but also what other traits would you like to see a xenomorph have, because, well, that's what they impregnate as the host. Later, everyone.